Just let's talk about cancer.
Yeah.
Is it profitable to find a cure to cancer? Isn't it more profitable to not find a cure for cancer?
It's not profitable if you take an existing treatment and repurpose it, because there's just not a lot of money in those generics, drugs that have been out, and there's many companies that make them now. But if you make a drug de novo and you are curing a disease, the market exclusivity, the marketing rights, it does make it profitable, and you're seeing huge profits. So the fastest area of healthcare spending is drug spending, and the fastest area of drug spending are these drugs called biologics. They're complicated molecules, and the complexity stems from them being derived from cells. You don't just make them in a chemistry lab. They are derived from a cell line. Well, there are generic versions of those expensive medications, but the FDA has set up so much red tape that companies are not pursuing those generic versions. So we cut that red tape. We cut the research and development cost in half. These drugs are amazing. We're also issuing these priority vouchers for a priority review. So if your company is making a product that's in line with our national priorities, that is domesticating manufacturing, meeting an unmet public health need, and the president's mission to make medications affordable by lowering drug prices, as you saw with the most favored nation status, or MFN pricing, which means we get the lowest price of the developed world. In the United States, we're the largest purchasers of drugs. Mm-hmm. We deserve the best price. That's been the president's strong position, and that's why you're seeing certain medications come down now from $243 to $10. You just saw the GLP-1s come down from $1,300 in the announcement to a $50 copay, or $150 for the first couple months. Massive. We're not talking about 1 or 2% stuff. We're talking about massive reductions. Well, one of the vouchers we issued was for this medication for cancer that for certain types of rectal cancer shrinks the tumor into nothing, eliminates, melts away. If that technology is out there and people are candidates, what are we doing? What are we waiting for?
I mean, obvious reason. Obvious reason. I mean, why would they release it? So think about, you don't think some of these companies have the cure for cancer? Think about how many smart researchers we have. So somebody all of a sudden comes up and says, guys, we got this cure for cancer. This can help it. And let me show you. Here's what it looks like. Now, the guy is going to be sitting there saying, all right, we released this. Show us our charts. How much money do we make off cancer every year? 38%. Which drugs, what chemo, what medicine is tied to this? 38% of our top line revenue. How much would this be? This would be 6% of our top line revenue. So you want me to release a drug that's going to inject our top line revenue by 6% but get rid of 38%? Yeah, guys, let's take our time with this one. Keep the research.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying the medical industrial complex is making so much money off the current way in which it functions that if you come up with something that's going to just eliminate diseases that they can't poke and prod you and over-medicate you for and operate on you for, that is such a threat to the business model that there's a machine that wants to stop it. So I understand why people are cynical, because the medical industrial complex has no incentive really to move in the right direction. They're profiting from sickness. But I will say, I don't personally think it's that intentional. I think the pharmaceutical companies get a pot of gold if they can make a leap in advancing a treatment. So this medication, for example, that melts away certain rectal cancers and other GI cancers, we're giving it a priority review. If the review goes well, and I expect it probably will, it's going to be on the market, and you're going to start seeing operations averted, people no longer sitting in the chemo chairs, not getting radiation therapy. Some of this stuff, by the way, doesn't work very well for certain cancers, depending on the type and the treatment. And so I do think I do still think there's an incentive to create some powerful treatments. Type 1 diabetes treatment. I'd like to see a meaningful treatment or cure for type 1 diabetes in this administration. There's a potentially promising treatment that we are tracking so closely. And here's how we do it. I personally go to the front lines of the FDA and meet with the scientific reviewers one-on-one. It's got to be one-on-one or you're not getting the full story, right? And I ask them, are you seeing anything that looks amazing? Something that gives you chills up your spine because it could be such a game changer.
You're asking that question?
I ask that question to reviewers. And most of the time they say, no, nothing really that much of a game changer. But then we'll find a diamond in the rough. And one of those was this treatment for diabetes, where I don't want to get too much into it, but it looks amazing. And there's another treatment for another condition. And we're going proactively. So if one of the reviewers says, this early result, this data looks too good to be true, then we'll call the company, send us more data. Forget about the application and the margins and the font and the, all the dumb requirements government says. Just send us the data and we'll look at it and we'll issue these vouchers to get a decision out in weeks instead of, a year or years. So for example, about a month ago, an article came out in our top journal, the New England Journal of Medicine, for a type of childhood deafness, a form of congenital deafness that's about maybe 1 to 3% of kids with congenital deafness. And they gave them a gene therapy delivered through a little device that restored normal hearing to kids with congenital deafness. They got normal hearing in 3 out of 12 kids, and 7 out of 12 got improvement in hearing. What are we waiting for, right? When you see that, the kid is deaf, and it had an impeccable safety profile. So we contacted that company days from that data being published. We are not in a receive-only mode. We're not a stingy librarian anymore at the FDA. We're proactive. So we're going out there, and you're seeing powerful treatments for some forms of blindness, deafness, pediatric conditions, rare diseases, cancers, and we're going to keep going. This is an entirely new approach, and I think we're going to deliver more cures and meaningful treatments for the American public in this administration. My predecessor in the Biden administration said his number one priority as head of the FDA was fighting misinformation. Well, our number one priority is not censoring Americans, it's delivering more cures and powerful treatments.
Well, that number one priority is fighting disinformation matches up with what World Economic Forum, I believe, said at Davos. That number one was on that list. Rob, is that pretty accurate that they said the number one risk? So they're aligned. I'm not surprised that they're saying that. When we set out to create a shoe that blends comfort, function, and luxury, we had the choice to make it fast. We had the choice to make it cheap. We chose neither. Instead, we chose Tuscany, Italy. We chose true Italian craftsmanship, each pair touched by 50 skilled hands. We chose patience, spending 2 years perfecting every detail, and we chose the finest quality at every step. Introducing the Future Looks Bright collection. Not rushed, not disposable, not ordinary. Rather, intentional, luxurious, timeless. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.